Carvin sat still in the command chair, his eyes fixed on the stars outside the shattered window. The bridge of the Threxel was cold and silent. The lights flickered now and then, but most had gone out days ago, only the faint red glow from the control panels gave any light. The air was thin, every breath hurt. The ship had been drifting for 6 days now. The engines were dead, life support was barely working. Carvin could hear the low hum of dying systems. He was the highest-ranking soldier left there. Were only 4 others still alive? Maybe 3. He had not checked on them in hours. Time no longer felt real. There was no sunrise, no sunset, only the blackness of space and the slow turning of the wreck. He looked at his hands. His claws were dull, his skin dry, the silver bands on. His arms' signs of rank among the Raveks were cracked. He remembered the last battle. They were supposed to catch a small human convoy near the Veil Expanse. But it had been a trap. The humans were ready. They came with ships 3 times the size of the Threxel, fast, quiet, and deadly. Their weapons cut through the Raveks line like fire through paper. He had never seen ships move like that, so smooth, so full of purpose. He remembered the first hit. A beam of white light that melted the side of the Threxel. Screams filled the bridge. Orders were shouted, then cut off by more blasts. They tried to run, but no one could run fast enough. The last thing Carvin remembered before blacking out was the ship rolling as the rear engines exploded. When he woke, most of the crew were dead. Some had burned, some had suffocated, some just lay still, eyes open, staring at nothing. They tried to send a signal, no answer. They tried again, still nothing. Carvin had stopped trying after the 3rd day. He was alone, even with others breathing around him. He was alone. One of the engineers, Dalek, died 2 days ago. He had been trying to fix a cracked oxygen pipe. The pipe broke more. Gas leaked. Dalek did not move fast enough. Carvin pulled him out, but it was too late. He did not even scream. He just stopped. Carvin had no strength to bury him. He dragged the body to the cargo bay. It floated there now, silent. The others stopped talking after that. Now, only silence remained. Carvin opened the control panel and looked. At the power levels, 6%, not enough to move, not enough to last more than 1 more day. He sat back again. No more messages came. No ships passed by. He thought about home. He had not seen his family in 3 years. The war had taken everything. They said humans were weak. They said humans were slow. But Carvin had seen the truth. Humans were not weak. They were strong in ways Ravek's command never spoke of. They adapted fast. They worked together. Their machines were made for speed and fear. Carvin had fought in 5 battles against humans. In the first one, they laughed. In the last one, they begged. Now he was ready to die. He closed his eyes, his head tilted back against the chair. But he could not sleep, not anymore. Sleep brought dreams, and dreams brought screams. He opened his eyes again, looked out at the stars. The stars did not care. They blinked slowly in the dark. He remembered his brother's voice, deep and firm, telling him to be brave. He tried to be, but now all that was left was the cold. The air grew thinner by the hour. He thought about ending it. He had a blaster still. But something inside him held back. A strange feeling, not hope, not yet. Just waiting, maybe for nothing, but still waiting. He got up and walked slowly to the main console. The floor was sticky. He didn't want to know why. He touched a few keys, tried to send one last ping. Nothing, just static. He sat down again, breathed in, slow and sharp. He began to speak. His voice rough. Log. Final entry. This is Carvin, Ravik soldier, ship Threxel. We were left to die. No rescue, no answers, only silence. If anyone hears this, we fought, we lost. I have seen the fire of human ships, and I know now, they do not fight like us. They fight to survive, and maybe, just maybe, that is why they win. This is the end. Carvin out. He leaned back again. Eyes closed, breathing slow, then as if from far away, a sound small, a single ping. He opened his eyes, looked at the console. Another ping. A signal from somewhere out there, weak but real. Carvin stared, his heart beat faster. He leaned in. The signal was human. A ship was near, coming closer. He could hardly believe it. The silence had broken. Maybe, just maybe, they were not going to die today. Carvin woke with a start. He had fallen asleep without meaning to. The sound that woke him still echoed in his ears. A sharp tone, real, not a dream, not a memory. He turned to the console, a blinking light glowed faintly. He tapped the screen with shaky fingers. The message was scrambled, too broken to understand. But it was a signal, and it was human. His heart pounded. He hadn't felt this kind of fear in days. It was not the fear of death. It was the fear of hope. He checked the coordinates. The signal was moving, approaching slowly, but steady. He leaned closer. The human ship was still far, but it was not drifting. It had purpose. It had speed. Carvin sat back again. He stared at the ceiling. His body shook. He was not alone in the dark anymore. Behind him, a soft cough. One of the other survivors had woken. It was Varna, a junior technician. Her skin looked pale, her breathing shallow. She whispered, "Did you hear it?" Carvin nodded slowly. "It's human." She looked away, her eyes wide with fear, not relief, fear. "They will not help us," she said. "They will finish what they started." Carvin didn't answer. He wanted to believe she was wrong, but part of him wasn't sure. He had seen human warships tear through fleets. He had seen them strike fast and vanish just as quickly. And yet, he remembered something else, a story. One of the captured files from the early days of the war. It was a human distress call. A ship called out for help, and another came. Through fire, through enemy lines, they came. Humans answered their own. Would they answer an enemy too? Carvin did not know, but something in his chest said yes. He began speaking again, recording another log. His voice was rough and low. "Second signal received. This one real, this one close. It carries the mark of a human vessel. Still too far to see, but getting closer. Crewmate Varna fears they will attack. But I choose to wait, not because I trust, but because I have no other choice. We are shadows now, floating in silence, and in this silence, I find the truth. We were never prepared, not truly. We thought we understood war, but we didn't understand humans. War is not only weapons, it is memory, it is promise. It is the oath to never leave one of their own behind. I wonder, will that oath stretch far enough to reach even us?" He ended the log. Varna had passed out again, her body trembling from the cold. Carvin wrapped a torn thermal blanket around her. He sat near the window again, looking at the stars. The stars seemed different now, not because they changed, but because something was coming. He remembered how the silence had felt yesterday. Complete, endless. Now it was broken, just a small crack. But a crack was all it took for light to enter. He reached under the console and pulled out a data core. He began to speak into it. "To whoever finds this, I am Carvin. I have served the Raviks for 15 years. I have fought in battles across 5 sectors. I believed the humans were animals, that they had no order, no code. But now I sit in their silence, and I think I was wrong. The silence is not empty. It is full of things they don't say, full of oaths they don't forget. And now they come. Will they kill us? Or will they prove that what I have seen is real?" A soft beep interrupted him. The ship sensors flickered again. Then a new light blinked on the screen. Carvin stared at it. His breath caught in his throat. A ship, large, human, now visible on the scanners. It was damaged, its hull scarred, but it moved like a beast waking from sleep. No wasted motion, no delay. The human ship sent a new signal. Carvin read the translation slowly. "We see you. Hold position. We are coming." He stared at those words. He read them again, and again. He turned to Varna. She was still asleep, but her hand twitched, like her body knew something had changed. Carvin smiled, the first smile in days, and he whispered to himself, "They see us. We are not alone in the dark." Outside, the stars watched, and the silence, for the first time, felt like it was listening. The USN Silver Wind glided through the outer rim of the Veil expanse. Its engines whispered against the void. Built with a long, narrow hull and jagged armor plates, the Silver Wind looked more like a predator than a ship. It bore scars from 24 battles. Some were deep burns from plasma strikes. Others were clean cuts from laser blades. But none had stopped her. She was the ship that came when others turned away, inside the command bridge. Captain Lavra Benson stood tall. Her short brown hair was tucked behind her ears. Her eyes scanned the screen calmly. She saw the drifting Ravik ship ahead. It looked like a wounded animal floating in space. "Confirmation," said Ensign Leo Sharp, his voice steady. "It's the Ravik's vessel Threxel. Power minimal, no weapons activated. But there's a weak signal, same as what we caught before." Lavra nodded. She did not blink. "Open a channel, let them know we're approaching." Leo hesitated. "Captain, they might think it's a trick. They might panic. Their species doesn't respond." "Well, to uncertainty. Then make the message simple. Make it human. Tell them we see them. And we're coming." Below deck, the boarding crew began to gear up. Lieutenant Nate Carter checked his armor straps, each movement slow and practiced. He glanced at the others. No one spoke. They had done this before, but never with Ravik survivors. "Think they'll shoot at us?" asked Private Daniels. "Not in their state," Nate replied. "But keep your visor down. We're not here to fight, we're here to answer." The boarding shuttle separated from the Silver Wind. Its sides shimmered with reflective coating to hide it from scanning beams. It approached the Threxel slowly. One wrong move and the fragile wreck could tear itself apart. Inside, Nate watched through the port window. He saw the damage up close now, gouges in the hull. Blown-out airlocks, drifted bodies caught in frozen loops. They reached the main docking ring. Nate gave the order. "Seal and pressurize. Begin entry." The outer hatch opened with a soft hiss. Stale air met them. It smelled of rust, of burnt wires and blood. Nate stepped in first. He held his rifle low but ready. They moved down a dark corridor. Lights flickered like dying stars. They passed rooms filled with empty chairs. Some still had straps buckled. Others had broken screens blinking meaningless symbols. "Signs of life?" asked Daniel softly. "Faint ahead," said Nate. The medical scanner on his arm glowed weak blue. Then they found him. Carvin stood in the middle of the bridge. His back was straight, but his arms hung loosely at his sides. His eyes were alert. Behind him lay a motionless body. A thin figure wrapped in a gray blanket. Nate raised a hand. "We're not here to harm you." "You sent a signal," we answered. Carvin blinked, then slowly nodded. He tried to speak, but his voice cracked. Nate took a small water pouch from his belt. He held it out carefully. Carvin hesitated, then stepped forward and took it. He drank slowly. Nate looked at the figure behind him. "Is she alive?" "Breathing, but cold weak," Carvin said. His words were sharp but tired. Nate motioned for Daniels to approach. They scanned her quickly. "We can stabilize her. She needs real medbay treatment." Carvin said nothing. His eyes followed every move. He was watching for betrayal, but none came. "Why?" Carvin asked finally. "Why come here? We are your enemies. You should leave us. Let space finish the job." Nate looked at him, his voice firm. "We don't leave distress calls unanswered. Enemy or not, you called, so we came." Carvin seemed to shrink at that, like the weight of that truth was heavier than the wreck around him. Nate spoke again. "Help us carry her. Then you can ask all the questions you want." Back on the ship in the light, Carvin moved without a word. Together they lifted Varna. Her breathing was shallow. Her hand twitched slightly. They made their way back through the ruins of the Threxel. The ship groaned. Metal bent under invisible pressure. It would not last much longer. The boarding shuttle sealed again, then launched back toward the Silver Wind from the observation deck. Captain Benson watched the shuttle return. She saw 2 Ravik shapes inside. "Prepare the medbay. Send the message to command. Let them know we have survivors." Leo Sharp turned to her. Command will want to question your decision. They won't like it. They'll understand eventually, and if they don't, she smiled, let them question me after I save lives, not before. In the shuttle, Carvin sat beside Varna. He stared at the inside of the human craft. The walls were smooth, the lights soft, no sharp corners, no cruel edges. He saw a human hand reach out to check a pulse. And for the first time in his life, he felt something he had never associated with. Humans, safety. He closed his eyes and let the silence carry him forward. Carvin sat quietly on the padded seat of the Silver Wind's medbay. The warmth in the room felt strange against his skin. For days he had only known the cold touch of death. Now heat hummed through the walls. Soft lights glowed from the ceiling. Machines beeped gently, and nearby, Varna lay asleep in a clean white bed. Her chest rose and fell steadily. Humans had saved her. Humans, he had no words for that yet. Across the room, a human woman stood near a console. She wore a long coat instead of armor. Her face calm, her hands folded behind her back. "My name is Dr. Elaine Monroe," she said softly. Her voice was calm like the lights. "I'm a civilian consultant, language and culture. The captain thought I might help with the transition." Carvin blinked. Slowly, he did not answer right away. He studied her face. There was no fear in her eyes, only curiosity. "You speak my tongue well," he said. His voice was dry. "Too well," Elaine smiled faintly. "I've had time. We've been listening to Ravik's transmissions since the first skirmishes. Languages reveal more than tactics. They show how people think, how they feel, even how they hope." Carvin frowned. Hope was not something the Ravik's command encouraged. Duty, discipline, obedience. But hope? That was for the weak, and yet here he was, alive. Because a human ship had stopped. Because a human voice had said, "We see you." He looked at Elaine again. "Why? Why did your captain help us? We are enemies. We have killed your kind, burned your outposts. We left no one alive." Elaine nodded. "Yes, you did. But we do not measure mercy by what others deserve. We measure it by what we choose to be." Captain Benson believes in that. So do I. Carvin leaned back slowly. The bed creaked beneath him. His eyes moved to the ceiling. "Your kind is strange. We thought you weak. You grieve openly. You share your pain. You do not hide your fear. But you still fight. You fight harder than any species we have ever faced. You fight even when you are losing. Why?" Elaine sat on a stool beside his bed. She folded her hands in her lap. "Because we remember. Because we carry stories of every war, every loss, every mistake. We learn, and then we build. We survive because we never stop trying. Even when no one comes, even when all hope fades, we still move forward. We don't always win, but we always try." Carvin was quiet for a long time. He listened to the hum of the medbay. He listened to Varna breathing. He listened to his own heart beating. And then he said, "That is why you are dangerous. Because you never stop, you never break, and you never leave your dead. That is why we feared you, not for your ships, not for your weapons, but for this." Elaine tilted her head. "Then perhaps you feared the wrong things. We don't want endless war. We want peace. But we won't run from a fight if others force it on us." Carvin nodded slowly. "We were taught you would wipe us out, that if we fell into your hands, you would do worse than death. But here I am, alive, breathing, and being heard. And that breaks everything I was trained to believe." Elaine stood up gently. "Sometimes the only way to find truth is to survive the lie. Rest, we will talk more later. There is much to understand. And your story is just beginning." She walked away. Carvin stared at the wall. He did not understand everything yet, but for the first time in many cycles, he felt a crack in the armor he had worn all his life. Not the one on his body, but the one around his mind. Humans were not what he thought, not monsters, not saints either, but something else, something in between, something real. He closed his eyes, not in fear, not in pain, but to think, to remember the fire, to understand the light, and to prepare for what might come next. Carvin stood beside a wide window on Deck 7 of the Silverwind. Outside, stars shimmered in silence. The ship moved through space like a ghost with engines. It was quiet now, not like the Ravix ships. Ravix vessels always growled. The metal always groaned. Here, it felt like the Silverwind was listening. He pressed a clawed hand gently to the glass. He could see the path of the stars shifting slowly. A new sector, new systems, new rules. Behind him, footsteps echoed softly. He turned and saw Elaine Monroe approaching again. She held a small metal tablet in one hand. "I thought you might want to walk," she said. "Not just lie in the medbay. You're recovering quickly." Carvin nodded. The food helped, and the light. I had forgotten what light without fear feels like. Elaine stood beside him. She looked out at the stars too. "You've seen a lot, more than many of our own soldiers. I wanted to ask if you'd share what happened before we found you. We're trying to understand the full picture, not just the wreckage." Carvin did not answer right away. He lowered his hand from the window. "It was supposed to be a simple ambush. We had intel that your supply convoy would pass through the Veil Expanse. Our fleet moved in early, cloaked, ready. But when we arrived, your ships were already waiting. Not just supply vessels, warships, fast ones, precise. Like they had read our thoughts, like they had set the trap instead." Elaine tapped something on her tablet. "Operation Grey Net. We suspected your command was intercepting false data leaks, so we gave them something juicy. Let them think they had outsmarted us. They took the bait and paid the price." Carvin let out a low sound, not quite a laugh. "I suppose we did." The first blasts came fast. The Threxel was in the middle of the formation. We tried to adjust, tried to retreat, but your ships knew where we would turn. It wasn't a fight, it was a lesson. You did not destroy everything, but you made sure we couldn't fight again. Our engines failed, the rear collapsed, escape pods were hit. The command ship left us, no message, no orders, just silence. Elaine frowned. "They left you, on purpose?" Carvin turned back to the window. "I believe so. We were the weakest link. And maybe, just maybe, they wanted you to find us to study how you react, to see if your mercy is a weakness or a weapon. But they underestimated one thing, what it means to be saved by the enemy, what it does to a soldier who thought he knew the truth." Elaine was silent for a moment. Then she said, "Do you regret fighting us?" Carvin's jaw tightened. "I regret not questioning more. I regret not listening to the doubts I buried. We were told humans were animals with tools. But I watched your ships work together, like one mind. I saw wounded fighters pulled back by escorts. I saw pilots make room for one another. No shouting, no panic, just trust. That kind of unity is not taught. It is lived. It is earned. I regret we never tried to learn from it." Elaine offered him the tablet. He took it and looked at the screen. It showed footage, old video clips from Earth, natural disasters, cities underwater, fires consuming forests, and always humans running into danger, pulling others out, rebuilding, crying, laughing, holding each other. He kept watching, his eyes wide. Elaine spoke softly. "We don't win because we are the strongest. We win because we refuse to let go of each other, of our values, of hope, even when it burns, especially when it burns." Carvin handed the tablet back. "Fire is part of your story, but so is light. Even in war, you find ways to bring light, not just destruction. I think that is why we failed. We believed only in dominance, not in survival together. And we taught fear instead of purpose." Elaine smiled gently. "You still have time to write a new story. Starting with truth, starting with choice, we can help, but only if you let us." Carvin looked one last time at the stars. Then he turned to her, and for the first time since he was pulled from the wreckage, he said, "Then let's begin." Far across the stars, in a dark chamber aboard the Ravix command cruiser Varnak's Edge, 3 high-ranking officers stood around a glowing table. Holograms flickered above the surface. They showed the damaged Threxel, the human ship that found it, and a series of intercepted transmissions. Admiral Korth leaned forward. His jaw clenched. They rescued them. They brought them aboard, and they are still alive. General Stravik narrowed his eyes. It was expected. Human compassion is predictable. Their protocols make them weak. They cannot leave survivors, even enemy ones. The third officer, High Strategist Velna, tapped her fingers on the table. What concerns me is not the rescue, it is what comes after. Carvin was part of the failed assault. He knows we left them. He knows too much. If he speaks to the humans, if they believe him, it could expose our intent. It could change everything. Korth's voice was low. Then we silence him. We track the silver wind, and we strike. A quick hit, no survivors. A clean end to this loose thread. Velna shook her head slowly. A direct strike risks more. The humans are not as scattered as we hoped if we attack them now. They may respond with a full campaign. We need patience, not fire, not yet. Stravik leaned back. Then we prepare an ambush. Wait for the silver wind to approach a neutral zone. We use one of their own signals. Make it look like another ship in distress. They will come. They always come, and when they do, we will not miss. Back aboard the silver wind. Carvin walked slowly through the upper corridor. He had been given limited access to parts of the ship. He did not mind the escort. Human soldiers nodded at him. Some curious, some cautious, but none aggressive. That surprised him the most. He passed a glass window and stopped. Beyond it was the war room. Large, circular. Dozens of screens showed sectors of space, ship movements, threat reports. Captain Lavra Benson stood at the center, her eyes focused. Her hands behind her back. He watched her speak with officers. Short words, precise commands. She did not shout. She did not need to. The crew respected her. They moved fast when she spoke. She turned slightly and saw Carvin watching. She gave a small nod. He returned it. Later that cycle, Carvin sat again with Elaine in the observation room. They will come for me, he said quietly. The Ravik's command does not leave witnesses. They will not let me speak freely, not if they can stop it. Elaine leaned forward. We expected that. We've increased scans, patrols. Captain Benson is aware, but I need to ask why now? Why tell us this today? Carvin looked down at his hands. Because I felt it, in the stars, a kind of pull, a quiet threat in the dark. It's how Ravik's forces move. We hide in noise, but we strike in silence. If they're near, you will not see them until it is almost too late. Elaine nodded. Then we need to act before they do. We can send decoy signals, lure them, buy time. Carvin shook his head. You need more than time. You need proof. I accessed a secure log from the Threxel before your team boarded. I copied it into my ARM unit. It shows a private order from Admiral Korth. He instructed our command vessel to abandon us if resistance was stronger than expected. He called us acceptable losses. I can give you the file. Elaine sat up straighter. That changes things. If we can show their betrayal, it may drive a wedge between them. Some of your people still have honor. They won't accept this if they know. Carvin's voice lowered. Then we must make it known. But be careful once you speak this truth. The shadows will stir harder. They will not stop until I am silent, or they are. Elaine stood. Then it's time we stirred back, across the ship. Captain Benson reviewed the data Carvin provided. She watched the encrypted message play out. She read the words. Asset Threxel deemed not essential. Risk of human response outweighs retrieval value. Abandon, log no record. Proceed to fallback coordinates. She closed the file. They left their own. To protect the lie, we're done watching. Set course, we draw them out, on our terms. The silver wind changed direction. Its engines flared gently. The stars shifted once more, and somewhere in the dark, the hunters waited, not knowing the prey was now ready to strike. The silver wind drifted near the border of Sector 9. On every screen, stars blinked like waiting eyes. But the crew knew what lay behind them. Behind the stars was a fleet, a Ravik's fleet preparing to strike. Captain Benson stood at the center of the bridge. Her voice was calm. Hold steady. All systems to silent mode. Let them think we're blind. Let them think we're slow. Around her, the crew worked in silence. No flashing lights, no loud alarms. Just quiet breath and sharp eyes. Below deck, Carvin stood near the hangar bay. He wore a human-engineered vest to help regulate his damaged breathing. Beside him, Lieutenant Nate Carter checked a boarding drone. "You really think they'll come here?" Nate asked. Carvin nodded. "They will. You gave them a bait, a fake distress call. And you put your ship in neutral territory. They cannot resist the chance to strike without blame." Nate looked at him. "And what about you?" "They'll want your head. That data you gave us was a sword. They'll want to break it before it cuts deeper." Carvin's eyes narrowed. "Then let them try. They will see what happens when humans and Ravik stand together. High above, in orbit beyond." The sector rings. 3 human warships waited. The U.S.N. Arclight, built for stealth, the Grendel, a Hunter-class missile frigate, and the Hawthorne, a mobile carrier with twin hangars and launch bays. Their captain sat silent, listening to the Silver Wind's orders, waiting for one word: engage. Hours passed. Then the shadows moved. From the edge of the system, 7 Ravik ships slipped from the dark. Their engines pulsed in controlled rhythm. No messages, no warnings. Their lead ship, the RFS Kevalis, moved ahead fast, weapons powered up. Inside the Silver Wind, the alarms remained silent. Captain Benson's voice came through the com. "Wait for confirmation. Let them believe. Let them step into the light." The Kevalis launched its first warning strike, a pulse beam toward the Silver Wind's left wing. The ship rocked slightly, minimal damage. More of a statement than a blow. "Now," Benson said, her voice steady, and then the silence shattered. The Arclight decloaked and fired 4 high-velocity rail slugs directly into the Ravik's rear line. 2 ships reeled, 1 exploded without warning. The Grendel followed with a blanket of guided warheads. The missiles danced between wrecks and debris, then burst into burning arcs. The Hawthorne opened its bays. Small fighters poured out like sparks from a forge. They dove and twisted, firing precision rounds into the weak points Carvin had helped identify. Inside the Silver Wind, Benson gave orders. Like a conductor leading music: match angles, fire pulse sequence delta, rotate shields. Keep the Kevalis in front. We want them to think they can still win. Carvin stood behind the bridge crew now. His claws gripped the metal rail. He watched Ravik ships crumble. He watched human fighters move like one living thing. For the first time, he was not the target. He was part of the formation. He belonged to the defense. And it changed something deep inside him. The Kevalis returned fire. It struck the Arclight with a blast strong enough to dent its hull. But the Arclight turned quickly, disappearing into stealth again. "Vanishing like smoke," Carvin whispered. "They never fight alone. That is their strength. Not one ship, not one mind, but all together." The Ravik's line broke. 2 more ships exploded. The rest scattered. Some tried to run. But the Hawthorne's fighters gave chase. Others spun wildly, unsure of orders. Captain Benson stood tall. "Pursuit is limited. Let some go. Let them carry back the message. Let them report what happens when you hunt in silence, and your prey hears everything." The crew nodded. Cheers were quiet but strong. No celebration, only relief, only readiness below. Deck, Nate Carter clapped Carvin on the back. "You did good. You gave us the map, and we walked it. Told you we don't leave people behind, not even new ones." Carvin looked at him. Then at the stars once more, his voice soft. "I was born in silence, trained in silence, and I thought silence was strength. But now I see, sometimes, strength comes when silence breaks and voices rise together." The battle was over, but the war was not still. Something had changed, not in space, not in strategy, but in hearts. Carvin turned toward the command deck. He was no longer just a Ravik soldier. He was a witness, he was a choice, and now he was part of the fire that answered silence. The battle was over. The stars above Sector 9 shone bright and calm. But the Silver Wind bore the marks of the storm. Burns across its outer hull scored metal. Near the engine flanks, one dorsal cannon offline, yet it flew steady inside. The ship pulsed with quiet movement. Crew members repaired systems, engineers sealed the damage, medics checked the wounded. And in the center of it all, Captain Benson stood. In her command chair, watching it unfold with tired eyes. Status on enemy survivors? She asked softly. Ensign Sharp responded without looking away from his console. 2 Ravix escape pods recovered by their own scouts. The rest scattered, no pursuit ordered, just retreat. She nodded. Let them carry the story. Let them remember this. Fire, and no, we didn't strike first, but we finished it, in the med bay. Carvin sat beside Varna. Her breathing was steady now. Stronger than it had been in days. She stirred, then opened her eyes. Carvin leaned forward. You're safe, you made it. We made it. She blinked slowly. This is their ship? He nodded. Yes, and they saved you, like they saved me. She turned her head toward the ceiling. I thought they would end us. Instead, they fed us, healed us. Why? Carvin looked down at his hands. Because they fight with memory, with heart, not just steel. We were wrong about them, all of us. Elaine Monroe entered the room carrying 2 small data pads. She gave a quiet nod to Carvin. I have clearance. Your asylum has been granted officially. You and Varna will be transported to Earth within the week. You'll be free, protected, but also watched, at least for a while, you understand. Carvin accepted the pad. He read the short summary. A name, a new designation, a location, Earth. A place he had only seen in captured images, forests, oceans, cities that glowed at night, and people, so many different people. Will we be accepted there? He asked quietly. Elaine's smile was small but honest. Not by everyone. Some will see you as a threat. Some will hate you, but some will listen. Some will ask questions, and some will see what I see. That you didn't choose to be a weapon, but you chose to stop being one. That matters. Carvin looked at Varna. She nodded slowly. There was still pain in her eyes, but also something else. A flicker, a beginning later that day. Carvin walked alone down a corridor near the observation deck. The crew passed by him without fear. One engineer gave him a polite nod. Another offered him a ration bar. Small things but powerful. On the upper deck, Captain Benson waited by the window. You heading out soon? She asked without turning. Carvin stood beside her. Your Earth is it always cold? Always burning? Always loud? She laughed softly. All of those and more, but it's also full of music and smells you've never dreamed of. And skies that change every day. You'll hate it, then love it, then hate it again. It's messy, but it's home. Carvin tilted his head. Maybe one day it will feel like mine too. She looked at him for a long time. It already does. You stood with us. You gave us truth that earns more than just protection. That earns respect. A soft chime sounded. The silver wind had reached the jump corridor. One more signal, one more path. Carvin stared at the swirling light ahead. He could feel his old life fading behind him. Not erased, not forgotten, but changed. A new mission now, not to fight, but to speak, to witness, to tell the story of what happened in the dark and what broke through it, he whispered. They left us to die in silence, but silence didn't last. The humans came, and with them, a voice, a ship, a choice. I chose to live, and now I choose to begin. The jump activated. Light swallowed the silver wind, and Carvin's journey to Earth began.